the Nesiv Shalom brings down Lech Licha me'artzecha me'maladecha me'beis avicha. If you're leaving physically, then really it's in the opposite direction. First you leave beis avicha, your house, then you leave maladecha, your city, your state, and then you leave artzecha, you leave America. So why it's written backwards. So he explains that it had nothing to do with physical. In order for Avraham Avinu to become Avraham Avinu, he had to release himself from the effects of everything around him. And so therefore, it goes mehakal el ha-chomer. It goes from easy to difficult. We are all affected by living in a certain culture. We see that. The American kids are more spoiled. Even though you're from and you could be living in KJ, doesn't matter. Or you could be living in New Square, it doesn't matter. We're all affected by artzecha. And we grow up with those midas of being spoiled more, or whatever the midas, more liberal, or being tough. You grow up in America, the attitude towards kids at risk is send them to Utah, to boot camp. Interesting how tough they are on those rebellious kids and send them to jail, and they're very tough on them. It affects the way that we process everything in our lives. We're affected, as Avi said, goyirsach, yiddishach, or there's different words, but the bottom line is it infiltrates our minds based on the Rambam that says that we're affected by our surroundings. And so a little bit we're affected by artzecha, more we're affected mimaladetecha, right? If you grow up in Borough Park, your attitudes towards many things are going to be different than if you would grow up in Five Towns. Even though you're both from, whatever, not talking about Yiddishkeit, attitudes, you're affected. And then most of all, what's ingrained inside of us is what comes from Beis Avicha, that's mushrish inside, ingrained inside of us, things that we pick up from Beis Avicha. That's the hardest to change. So Hashem was saying, Lech Licha, go for you, go to you. Yeah, Avraham Avinu had to become Avraham Avinu. So in order to do that, emotionally, he had to leave from the being bound, gebinden, from the effects in his thinking of artzecha, and then harder, mimuladcha, beis avicha. So I said at the Shabbaton, very similarly, parents who are struggling with their kids, and there's a certain effect from artzecha, like I said, to tell consequences, boundaries. The therapy world, which is coming from the Goyim, is very often giving opinions against the Chazon Ish and the Baal Shem Tov and all the thousands of stories that we have, creating disconnection between you, which is the only thing that could save them, not understanding the chelik l'kami mamish, and that affects a lot of families. And how could I walk outside, even if I would do research and I find out that my child needs a dog for their mental health? And really, if you do the research, it's amazing. And if you do the Pashat, the practical research, you speak to TP parents who have gotten dogs for their kids, as hard as it is, and tell you how it saves them. Mamish saves them. How they're waking up earlier. They're going outside when they weren't going outside. Because Pashat, it helps kids get off drugs. No question that for traumatized kids or anybody suffering from mental illness and mental problems and pressure and anxiety and all that, it helps. It's a medicine. But if you go up in Williamsburg, you're affected by it. I should go in the street and do that. And very often we lose the mental health of our kids. We sacrifice it because of maladatachan. It's a very real thing. It's hard for us to understand if you don't grow up there, but people grow up there. It's a real thing. You worry about shidduchim. I say the good thing about growing up in Williamsburg is that if you're not sure what you did that day, you could ask your neighbors. They know. And they knew about your kid off the derech way before you did. It's like everybody's worried about what the neighbors, they're going to see my kids off the derech. They knew way before you. Anyway, but every community has that type of situation. Agav, when it came to the first TP family, Chassidische family, father wears a shtreimel, and the daughter was very sick, emotionally, very sick, depressed and cutting and drugs, the whole thing. Besides, not frum and all of that, right? And I told him, I think, and I say this with pain, I'm not a dog lover. So I say this with pain because I'm not here to change what Klal Yisrael looks like. But I said, I think that a dog will help your daughter's brains, that she'll need less drugs and less suicidal thoughts. I've done my research. I really think it'll help. And they almost fainted. And they went to the tzaddik, Krula Rebbe Shlita, the son of Reb Hershel Spinkas, Chus Yagan Aleinu. This is authentic Yiddishkeit, Chassidish, authentic Yiddishkeit, not I don't want to say, modern people, more modern people, okay, get a dog. Modern people have dogs. This is real Heimish. And he looked at the father, he said, I don't understand why you're hesitating. What would you do if your daughter was blind? You wouldn't get a dog? You get a dog because your daughter needs a dog. Over here also, your daughter needs a dog. You did your research. It's clinically, it's proven. And you got to do everything for your kid. This is helping your kid's brain. And what's stopping you? The neighbors? You're gonna sacrifice your child's brain because of neighbors? So there's the effects of Moiladatacha that sometimes block us from doing Ratzon Hashem. And then there's Mibei Savicha. So many people, they have ingrained in them tough love, because when they were, I keep on hearing, when I was a kid, all the Gedolim, Rav Steinman was 100 years old, Rav Gershon, he's almost 100 years old. All the Gedolim, Ziknei Hadar, say, it's different today, it doesn't work that way, but still, I got a text today. What do I do? I want to come to you. My husband, it's always the husbands, I don't know why, what's with these husbands? My husband cannot release the concept that he didn't grow up with love. Okay, so you're going to continue, you're going to bury your kid because you're stuck trying to do something that he sees doesn't work. In other words, I don't mind. Slap your kid, beat them up, but it works? Okay, I don't care what you do. But he's doing tough love on the kid's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. So at what point are you going to say, hey, this isn't working? Chanech lenar al pi darkoi, as the Nesiv Shalom says, chanech ledar al pi darkoi. Every dar has its own tachlus and yud. So you're going to take a method that may have worked, and it did work, but also did a lot of damage. But anyway, let's say it would work perfectly. A medicine from 30 years ago, nishtanu adayres. That's what Rabbi Gershon Edelstein right away said. I said, what changed? He goes, every dar is different. Look in Pele Yoyes. He says, the world has changed. Today, when you're tough, today, he says, over 200 years ago, Pele Yoyes, nobody's arguing on that. He says, Nishtanu hadairis v'ativim. The world has changed, and what used to work, that being tough used to work, today makes people rebellious and worse, and therefore only go with niceness and with b'derech raka, beautiful shtickle Pele Yoyes. I've sent it out. How could somebody argue? And that's 200 years ago. And now we're going to say, no, but when I was in Satmar, when I was a kid, my Rebbe used to slap me and hit me and kick me. Fine. You turned out pretty good, hopefully, but it won't work on your kid. It doesn't work. The old stuff doesn't work. And then a lot of people, when they try to do TP, they have their brother, their mother-in-law, their sister-in-law, their father-in-law, their neighbor, telling them, what are you doing? What are you doing? Which is so odd. They're criticizing, what are you doing? When they don't know what you should do. And if you would listen to them, your kid could be dead and they've never helped anybody. And it's a pressure on you. So I said that the same way that in order for Avraham Avinu to be Zaycha to Lech Licha, to find himself, to do Ratzon Hashem, and to be Zaycha to Yiddish Nachas and all good things, that he had to go out of the things that were stopping him from doing Ratzon Hashem. You have to go out of ARTSCROLL. So too, you parents, if you believe that this is Ratzon Hashem, your Das Torah is behind it, and we have Baruch Hashem success, you have to realize that you're going to have obstacles. Obstacles in your brain, emotional obstacles. This doesn't feel right. I wasn't brought up like this. I didn't have a dog in my house. I didn't have a mini skirt walking around my house. I should just tell him to stop. I should just use, control. And you're gonna have a lot of pressures coming into you that are blocking you from saving your kid, and they can be saved be'ezus Hashem through following Das Torah and authentic Torah Judaism, following the Chazon Ish. Very simple. When the Chazon Ish said, "Yinasu l'mashchem ba'avoisei sahava," try to pull them in. You're talking about moving somebody without moving them physically. That's so much avoisei sahava, cords of love. God forbid, don't reject them. That means that if they come in with a miniskirt and you say, "Get out of my house," you can't translate as rejection. I have rules. This, all of that is the small-mindedness. It's so clear. And we have so many stories and we have so many gedolim that tell us what to do. And still parents are going to be suffering. Why? Because in your head, you have ideas from Artsacha. Hashem is saying, if we believe that this is Ratzon Hashem, you have to check, you have to believe it. In order to do that, you have to get out of all of those things that are squashing you and disabling you. And you have to go, Kashadiba Elav Hashem. You have to go like Avraham Avinu. He didn't go for the reward. He didn't go because I'm going to get glory and fame and money and nachas. He did it Kashadiba Elav Hashem. You're going to break out of your lives, like so many TP parents said, like just tonight she said before, and like so many have testified 2 years, 3 years later, that they were forced because of this kip to change everything about themselves, to get rid of all anger, to follow in the Yud Gimel Midas of Time Devar tells us Yud Gimel Midas Harachamim, and to become a totally different person, Arachim Be'etzem. It's a totally different thing. It's not I'm going to act with Rachmanis. And Be'etzem, my first reaction is Oy Nebuch, compassion, Erchapayim, not getting angry. And the Eibush will help from that. We're still living in the schos of Avraham Avinu, of Lech Licha. Ramesh El Hirsch, the Shiva Slabatka Shlita, told the TP parent, he explained the matzav and of Nebuch, what he's doing and how much he's giving up to be trying to save his daughter with TP. He was here in group, and he said that this is Akedas Yitzchak. This is a real Nisayan of our dar, and you're doing Akedas Yitzchak. You're giving up. You're zeichet to tremendous Amidah Nisayan, controlling yourself to save your kids. The only difference is it's not Akedas of Yitzchak. It's Akedah of yourself. You're giving up yourself. You're giving up yourself. You're giving up what your Shabbos table is supposed to look like, what your house is supposed to look like, your dreams and hopes. You're giving up a lot. Not sleeping at night, spending a lot of money that you wanted to save up. You're giving up so much. It's Akedah of Zichalein. And then the Nisayan of our dar is not Akedas Yitzchak, not the Shechta children. It's Amidas Yitzchak, to help them stand. They can't stand. They're in a wheelchair. And with your love, going out of all of the constraints, and you get to a boundary, say, I can't do this anymore. Call out to Hashem. Say, Onani, please answer me with an extension. And you ask Hashem, we daven to Hashem to stand with you, to help you leave those constraints that are blocking you from finding but not only to save your child, but Lech Licha, you're going to find a new you. You're going to look in the mirror, you're going to see a calmer, happier, less anxiety, more amuna, more betachin, more tzumzach, more understanding the world around you, not looking down, not being upset, not getting angry, being a being, memlechas kehana v'goy kadosh, a light unto the nations, or at least a light unto your friends, children who are suffering, and your children's friends who are suffering, and being a magnet to all these neshamas that Hashem gave us opportunities, Nebuch all around us. The calling of the dar to save neshamas and to be zeicha to all the brachas and Zayra Kaddish in Pasha Shuma that we learned together. Children, grandchildren, money, everything, all the brachas is tali, and we have a responsibility in the chiyuv to do it. It's an avera not to do it, but we should do it and be zeicha to all the brachas. And most of all, you should have tremendous hatzlacha with all of your kids to be zeicha to walk them down to a chuppah kedas Moshe v'Yisrael.
Amen.
Amazed. Amazed. Right? I'm amazed. I'm like, what are we asking for already? What are we asking for? Hashem, we want to walk our children down to a chuppah kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. We'll give up everything. We'll give up time, money, effort. We'll give up everything. What do you parents want? You want what was once considered normal. It was 30 years ago, you have 5 kids, you have 5 chuppahs. You have 10 kids, you have 10 chuppahs, right? And now it's like, with all of these tzaras and klal yisrael, it's like we just want to be able to walk down that chuppah. We just want to see them under a chuppah. We just want to see them have a chuppah kedas Moshe v'Yisrael. You know, I don't care what sheitel, not sheitel, halavai, but just give us basics. We'll be happy. Shmir Shabbos, eating, fasting on Yom Kippur, karas mishpacha, kashrus. You know, like what are we asking for? And we have to do so much, so many thousands of families. Hashem should be merachim on all of us to see only Yiddish anachas from all of our offspring. It should come easier for you. You shouldn't have to give up so much. But it's clear, like we said before, it's about us. We're willing to give up everything for our children. We're willing to give up everything. And you have a koyach, karachim av abanim. Kein terachim Hashem aleinu. It's midah keneged midah, the way that you parents, avos like you, parents like you, karachim of like you, abanim. Kein terachim Hashem aleinu. You're bringing the geula. There's no question about it. No question about it. Anybody who knows anything about the depth of what's happening here, we've been through everything already. It's for sure the ikvus of the Mashiach, and it's for sure Hashem set us up with kids off the derech so that way we can bake our love into them and see, Hashem, we're doing what you did. Mitzrayim, B'nai B'chai Yisrael. We like it. We like that, right? That you loved us even though. Look what we're doing. We're not letting anything our kid does put a wall between us. We are going to be there with them in their journey. We're going to be their parents in every single way. Like the Sefer Ikrim says, we don't find any mercy greater than the mercy that a father has for his child. Sefer Ikrim, Maimer Shlishi. The Radak says, Ein rachamim gedolim kerachamei ha'av al haben. There's no greater mercy in the world, more than parents and children. And this is what Hashem decided to call us a father. Okay. And it says that he's mamash a father in every way, just like physical. That's the way the Eibush did. That's why he chose it. There's no love in the world that's stronger than the love of parents, and there's no love in this world or out of this world than the love that Hashem has for his children. Banim atem l'Hashem l'keichem for Klal Yisrael. And when you extend that love, b'poil, to your children, even though they spit in your face, Hashem has to. We twist his arm like a state in Svarim. That's what you're doing. You twist his arm that he has to give more shefa to his children, even though they're spitting in his face. We're spitting in his face all the time. You're an amazingly powerful group of parents. And you look at the other parents, in the name of Hashem, throwing their kids out into the street because they don't zushtel, conform, zishtel. They don't conform and they're struggling. They don't understand the struggle and they don't say how to deal with the struggle. I feel so terrible for them. We know, we feel bad for us also that our kids are going through this pain and that you're going through this pain, but at least you could feel good that you're doing everything that you need to do to save your children.